But if you have vast numbers of people coming to Britain, which is what we've had for the last 15 years, what happens is they don't mix and integrate. You start to get the formation of ghettos. And in those ghettos, in Paris and indeed in parts of London and particularly the north of England, you start to get ghettos in which the educational standards start to fall, the job prospects start to fall, and you get particularly young males between the ages of 16 and 24 have been increasingly attracted to some pretty extreme stuff.
A lot of people have said, you know, you were talking about divided loyalties, particularly with young Muslim people. A lot of the other party leaders and political parties have said that you are using this for political gain. This is played right into your hands.
I don't want to use this for political
immigration,
gain.
To say, you know, you're now making everybody very suspicious of any immigrant
I don't
that
want
comes
to see large-scale murder in Paris or in Britain or anywhere else. After the Charlie Hebdo massacres, when those cartoonists were murdered in Paris, there was a big poll of British Muslims done, and the findings are really interesting. 27% said they felt some sympathy for the motives behind the killings. 11% said they thought the cartoonists deserved it. Now, on the face of it, you know, given we have a Muslim population of 3 million, and it's grown by 75% in the last 10 years, that is terrifying. But hang on, hear me through.
Yeah.
But when you then ask British Muslims, are they loyal to Britain? 95% say yes.
Exactly.
Do they think British law, you know, it should be the supreme law? 93% say yes. So you've got the same group of people giving contrary opinions. Why? Well, I'll tell you why. Because actually what is happening to those 16 to 24-year-old men is they're having poison dripped in their ear, and we have seen, and the money's been coming from Saudi Arabia, the promotion in some of the mosques and through some of the universities of an extreme ideology. And I think if we stop that, I don't think the prospects for integration are necessarily negative. I think we can achieve it, but we've got to stop that poison being fed into these young men's ears.
I agree with you.
I propose, so a political party has to declare where its money comes from, right? And that's an open and transparent process, and that's a good thing. I think every single church and faith institution should have to provide, every quarter, their sources of income. If we did that, we could root out the money that has been going, in some cases in these mosques, coming from Saudi Arabia to promote extremism. And I think if we do that, and if we have moderate mosques, I think that'll be a massive step forward towards integration.
So would you agree to that happening to the Catholic Church and the Church of England as well? Because if the Church of England published their accounts, we would find what charities, what businesses they invest in, if it was ethical or not. And if the Roman Catholic Church published their accounts, then we would be able to see how the Vatican was funded. But the fact is that the Vatican's finances are just as convoluted as many of the mosques in this country.
I think it would be a good... No, I mean, it would be wrong. It would be wrong to single out the Muslim faith and say they had to declare their source of income and not the Catholic Church and the Church of England. I think all the faith organisations
but the Muslim faith
should declare where their money comes from.
are being completely singled out here, particularly when it comes to the migrant crisis as well. And now what people are saying is some of the things that you have said this week are focusing very much on immigration, and then people think that the immigrants coming in, the migrants coming in from Syria, amongst them are going to be all these terrorists. How do you know that?
Can we please be honest? You know, I said back in April and May that if we allow countless millions to come to Europe, and whether you call them refugees or migrants, there is a big debate about who's actually coming, all right? But I said back then, and it wasn't because, you know, I didn't invent this. I got this from ministers in the Libyan government, ministers in the Jordanian government, and ISIS themselves have said they will use the migrant crisis to flood Europe with 500,000 of their jihadi fighters. Now, even if it's 50,000 or 5,000 or 500, all it took was 8 people to cause those atrocities in Paris the other night, and we need to protect ourselves in this country, as does France and the rest of Europe too. So I'm all for.
So, but what are you proposing then?
I'm all for diverting.
The borders, don't let the migrants in.
I'm all for diverting a large chunk of our foreign aid budget to help people who are displaced by war. I bet nobody would object to us doing that.
But what we can't do, these people coming in through Eastern European countries.
What we cannot, the mistake that's been made is that the EU said back in April, anyone that sets foot on European soil can stay. And then Mrs Merkel, in what I think is one of the biggest policy errors we've seen in modern times, basically encouraged countless numbers of people to come. We have no means of checking the backgrounds of any of these people. we're not actually singling out genuine refugees.
You are singling out the Muslim community, and don't you believe that we already have a huge state of Islamophobia here already? Do you not feel that you're inflaming the situation by singling out a particular section of British society?
I think if you talk about a problem, you're more likely to deal with the problem. And what I've seen...
But are Muslims the problem?
Well, we're not saying Muslims are the problem. We're saying there is a small strain within Islam that believes, for whatever reason...
And Muslims don't identify with them?
Well, what we saw today, and let's all cheer, the Muslim Council of Great Britain took out a big advert in today's Daily Telegraph condemning what happened in Paris.
Yeah.
Good, great, I'm delighted. That's absolutely right, that's good. But what we mustn't do, and it's very interesting that the leader of the Lib Dems, the Green leader, and Yvette Cooper have called my comments despicable when I talk about the conflict that is going in amongst young male Muslim people in this country. I'm sorry, they are trying to pretend a problem doesn't exist, and it does, and we must talk about it, and we must try and deal with it, and if we deal with it, we'll all be happy.